Happy Monday, YouTube. I'm back with another Bill 69 entry. Should have happened this weekend, but it was too nice outside. I got way too much done outside, and I figured Monday's just as good as Sunday, so who cares? But anyways, this next trio of games that me and Simon Civ completed was originally posted in like mid-June of 2018. Oh, there's a couple cats in our backyard. They look just like our cat. There's all these cat clones in our neighborhood. Anyways, before I get distracted by cats because they're hilarious, this trio of games we posted about in mid-June of 2018, which was about 6 months after our previous post from mid-December or late December 2017, and featured three games that two of them were very well known to me. The first one was a staple on my NES collection. The second one was a staple on my Sega Genesis collection. The third one was one I'd never even heard about until Civ downloaded it on his machine and showed it to me. So it was kind of some familiar and then some very unfamiliar. Two of them very hard, one of them very easy or moderately easy, and but either way, another cool trio of games. So without further ado, the first one was released by Tecmo on the NES in the year 1989, and it is called Ninja Gaiden. Or Ninja Gaiden. I'm not even sure how to pronounce that word, and I'm not even sure what it means. But anyways, in this game you control Ryu Hayabusa, who you may know him from Street Fighter Fair, but he's this ninja karate kind of guy. His father Ken is like a researcher, and he's mysteriously killed one day, and as Ryu is kind of investigating his death and looking into what exactly happened, he's contacted by this guy named Walter Smith, who urges him to come to the USA. And when he gets there, Ryu's given this mysterious little statue. But before he knows it, Ken is killed right before his eyes. And then afterwards, Ryu is contacted by the CIA and brought in on exactly what's happening. And his father Ken was involved in this research archaeology site in the Amazon, and he unearthed these two statues which contain this mysterious power. So there's an enemy called the Jackio, the Wackio, something like that. It sounds Amazonian. I don't know, I guess. And he's after these statues to gain ultimate power for himself. So you set out with your ninja-like abilities to track down this Wackio fellow and get the statues back from him, prevent all this disaster from happening, and of course avenge your father's death. The game is divided up into 6 acts, and there's various amounts of levels in each act, usually like between 2 and 4, I guess, depending on the level or the act. And overall there's 21 levels involved in the game. As you go through, you're going to face mostly human enemies, thugs, soldiers, other kind of martial arts kind of people, and there are some animals as well, birds and bats and dogs and weird cats and stuff like that. You'll also find some pickups along the way when you destroy, I think some enemies drop them, but you can also destroy environmental objects and they will appear. You can gain alternate weapons like shurikens to throw at people and stuff like that, but either way, the game is it's one of those games that is so hard, and there's no save feature, there's no password, so you're always restarting. So you have to basically memorize every level, and it's not easy to do so, but it's one of those games where everything is the same every time through. All the enemies spawn in the exact same spots, so you just have to figure out the pattern to the level and exactly when and where to jump and who to hit and when to do these things. And eventually over time you'll get better at each level and advance through the game. And then you reach the final level and the final boss, and he's super hard because he has 3 different forms, so it's not even just like a one-off fight, it's this increment of fights. But if you can keep your wits and commit everything to memory, and you'll have a shot at beating the game. And this is a game, like I said, as a kids we didn't have a sniff of even close to the end of this game because it's so hard. But all these years later, buckling down as 40-year-olds, we were able to over time get it done. So that was kind of like, all these years later, right? So that was a huge finish to our first game of this sequence. The second game, like I said, was a staple of my Sega Genesis collection, released in 1991 by Sega for Sega, Sonic the Hedgehog. As you all know, Sonic the Hedgehog became like the flagship character for Sega in the Sega Genesis back in the 90s, and he spawned so many sequels, cartoons. Now he's got a live action movie, like new games, like even on the newer consoles. Like the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise has just taken the ball in 1991, and they've ran with it through to present times. So in this game, the original game, you control the little blue hedgehog who can run at Mach speed, and your primary antagonist is Dr. Robotnik. He's this evil scientist guy who has he's taken all the animals of the South Island, and he has encased them in his robotic machinations to power them, and he's slowly trying to take everything over by converting everything over to his maniacal whims. So and in order to do so and gain ultimate power, he has gone on a quest to capture all the Chaos Emeralds. So your task as Sonic the Hedgehog is to move through each level. There's 5 or 6 in total. 5 or 6 worlds, or acts, I guess they're called. Oh, excuse me. And each act is broken up into 3 levels. The first 2 levels are more just platforming action levels, and then the third level is a boss level. So Dr. Robotnik will show up in some manner of robotic contraption that he has built as the boss vehicle, and you got to bring him down. As you make your way through each level, all of the enemies are usually animal themed, and they're always like robots. So there's crabs, there's bumblebees, there's, I can't even remember some of them, like chameleons. There's all sorts of animals, fish, like piranhas, and as you hit them and bounce on them with your spin ball move, you will release the real animal that's inside the robotic animal. And then as you make your way through each level, when you confront Dr. Robotnik on the boss level, you'll get this giant capsule after you beat him that you can jump on, and then you'll release like a ton more animals. So that's your goal, is to partially 1, free all these captured animals, and 2, chase down Robotnik. So there's lots of pickups in Sonic the Hedgehog. There's rings scattered throughout the whole level. Rings are important because they keep you safe. Whenever you have rings in your possession, you can take 1 hit without dying, and then you'll drop all your rings. So as long as you can reclaim some amount of rings, you'll always keep that kind of safety hit on you. The other thing about rings is that when you gain 100 of them, you collect a free life, which is big. And at the end of each act, if you finish with a certain amount of rings, I don't know if it's 50 or it might be 50, I don't remember exactly, you'll spawn this bonus level. Now the bonus levels are the places that you go to in order to capture the Chaos Emeralds, and they're not like the regular levels. Sonic is permanently in his little spin ball move, and the screen is kind of these little corridors with exits on them, and you have to, and it's always spinning in one direction, and you have to bounce through it without hitting the exits, and find the Chaos Emerald in this little labyrinth of corridors before, and that's what ends the level. But if you crap out and hit one of the exits beforehand, you've blown it, and you have to try it again on the next level that you can finish and collect enough rings to access the bonus level. So I think there's six Chaos Emeralds, because there's 6 worlds or whatever in total, and once you gain all them and defeat Robotnik, then you've beaten the game for good. You can still beat the game without the Chaos Emeralds, but it's not a true completion, I guess is what you'd call it. The other items you can pick up is they usually come in these little square silver boxes. There's batches of rings that give you a bunch of rings at once. There is temporary invulnerability. There's a shield that gives you an extra hit. There's shoes that give you even more speed than Sonic normally has. And then there's, of course, extra lives. So if you can use all your items hit all the bonus levels and get all the emeralds. Sometimes that's the hardest thing, is getting all the chaos emeralds, because those bonus levels can be pretty tricky at times. So yeah, get all the emeralds, beat all the worlds, confront Robotnik for the final time, and you've beaten Sonic the Hedgehog. Revolutionary game. The speed on this game in 1991 when it was released, it was unlike anything anybody had ever seen. The way that this hedgehog just flew through these levels, like that kind of speed was only something you ever saw in a racing game. And even then, I think this was even faster. So, and then, you know, on top of that kind of revolutionary aspect of the game, you had this character enter the video game lexicon that just became so huge over time and spawned so much other material. So that game, we have a lot to be thankful for. Me personally, but you know, gaming in general. Now, the last game, like I said, this is one I had never heard about until Simon downloaded it on his machine. It's called, it was released by Capcom in 1990, I believe, and for the NES, and it is called Street Fighter 2010: The Final Fight. You may be saying, I've never heard of this Street Fighter game before. And you would be right. But it is not like all the other Street Fighter games that have come before it or after it. It's more of like a science fiction story-based game rather than a beat-em-up street fighting game. It's very bizarre. You control Ken from the Street Fighter series. It's 2010, of course, and it's after he's retired from being a martial artist fighter guy. And he's now become like this kind of science lab worker, nerd kind of guy. And together with his partner Troy, they are working on this substance called cyboplasm or something like that, which, when taken in small little doses, is capable of giving beings these superpowers that can help them accomplish great feats. When taken in large doses, though, let's just say it's not pretty. So, somebody kills Troy and takes this substance and is about to unleash all sorts of hell all over the galaxy. So that's when you, as Ken, get your fighting shoes back on and set out for a journey across the stars to find this mysterious person that stole the cybo whatever, and take it back and beat them down and avert total disaster. So there are 5 planets you will travel across in this game, and they break down into, you know, varying amounts of levels. I think in total there's about 19 levels in the game, and just like Ninja Gaiden, this game is super hard. And it's for a number of reasons. It's every level is timed, and there's not a lot of time, so you really have to like get on your horse and get things done. And there's different types of levels. There's levels that you have to speed through and then confront the final boss in order to get out of the level, and then there's other levels where you just have to beat down enough enemies to escape the level. Now, when I say beat down enough enemies and beat the boss, when you defeat enemies, sometimes they'll leave this little portal energy capsule sort of thing behind, and you have to collect enough of these throughout the level to open the final portal to get out of that level and into the next one. So you really have to be diligent in defeating all of the enemies you'll face so you can get all of this energy, but also do it quickly so that you don't run out of time. So it's this really tricky balance of being thorough but also being expedient about it all. So there's other pickups you'll get. Different weapons, I guess, you can equip. I think, is there weapons in this game? Yeah, there's like this little blue orb that will float behind Ken, and it'll damage enemies and stuff like that. And then there's, I think there's an extra life one, but the main ones are ones that will upgrade your damage that you do when you attack. It kind of like the Legend of the Mystical Ninja from my last post, when it extends your little stick and it gets you tougher. It's the same thing there. You gain these upgrades and get tougher and tougher and tougher, but each time you take a hit, it'll go back down. So you need to get powerful and then not get hit, so that you can help your progression through the level a little easier with those upgrades. So, and then you make it through all those 5 worlds and get to the final fight and beat him down, and you've saved the galaxy. Like I said, I'd never heard of this game before, and when Simon told me, oh, it's a Street Fighter game, but it's not like a Street Fighter game, and I was like, huh? And then we started it, and I was like, oh yeah, like it's so utterly different. Like you would think if you played a Street Fighter series game versus this Street Fighter 2010 game, without knowing what they were called or who the characters' names were, you would never in a million years link the two franchises together. Not in a million years. So it's kind of cool because it's this interesting little diversion from what the Street Fighter games have always been, right? And it adds a little bit of cool lore and story to one of the characters, right? So, but like I said, just so utterly different, and also very hard. This was a huge completion. I'm actually surprised it only took us 6 months from our last post to get these games done, because we knew Sonic would be a fairly quick completion, but both Ninja Gaiden and Street Fighter 2010 were super hard games. So the fact that we got through those 3 games in 6 months, I was actually kind of proud of that. So compared to how long it had taken us to get some of the other completions done, right? So, but anyways, that's the 3 games for this 7th entry of Bill 69, and yeah, hopefully tomorrow or the next day I will be back with the 8th. Have a great Monday.